Hello, my name is Alfie Downs, and in this PechaKucha, I aim to explore the implications of environmental change and how it will affect the events sector. Specifically, how this phenomenon will impact the outdoor festival industry in relation to waste and the effects of transportation to and from a festival site. Globally, outdoor festivals have become a growing trend, with Mintel reporting earlier this year that 26% of UK adults have attended a music festival in the past 12-month period. The Guardian similarly reported on the growing sector, publishing that music tourism rose by 20% in 2016, with close to 1 million people travelling to the UK for the sole intention of attending a concert or music festival. However, this sudden boom in the festival industry has undoubtedly contributed to the global climate crisis. Festivals are a huge contributor to waste that negatively impacts our environment. One clear contributor to the crisis are the sheer volume of tents that are left behind at festivals. The Independent reported that in 2018, on average, 60% of tents got left behind at festivals, with 90% of those tents either ending up in landfill or the incinerator. Frame and Newton discuss the importance of emphasising sustainability through social marketing and the success which this can bring. Social marketing has been recognised as a useful means to change or maintain customers' behaviour, typically for socially positive outcomes such as tackling the climate crisis. Rani and Turrentine similarly agree that social marketing is an effective way of connecting to one's audience and suggest that it successfully encompasses social science, which resonates far more successfully with the recipient. This form of social marketing could be used to adapt the festival attendees' behavioural attitude towards leaving their tent at a festival, encouraging them to take their tent home and reuse it in the future. Another approach some festival organisers have adopted to tackle the abandoned tent issue is to provide alternate, more sustainable accommodation solutions. Michael Eavis, co-founder of Glastonbury Festival, spoke in an interview with the BBC in 2011 and talked about how in 10 to 15 years' time he would like to be in a position where no attendees bring their own tents to the festival. Instead, accommodation would be provided by Glastonbury. Tents, however, aren't the only rubbish contributing to the waste left behind after a festival. Powerful Thinking produced a report that suggested that the average UK festival goer produces 2.8 kilograms of waste per day, with 68% of that waste ending up in landfill. That's an enormous 23,500 tonnes of waste per year from UK festivals alone. As environmental sustainability becomes more pressing, with the effects of climate change already being felt globally, many event organisers are already making adjustments to combat this change. Mayor and Jago promote the ideology of greening, a process of investing in sustainable facilities and practices throughout an event, the intention being that this action will influence attendees and will modify their behavioural attitude towards the environment both in and out of the event setting. Furthermore, Wan asserts that in order to incite change, event organisers need to be value-driven. Mayor and Lang similarly concluded that people at management level who hold strong ethical values towards making sustainable changes will over time see changes to their plans and policies when it comes to organising their events. If these policy changes are aligned with successful social marketing, there is a possibility these values will pass on to attendees. Often, one of the biggest contributors towards damaging the environment comes in a form that isn't as obvious as waste and abandoned tents. Instead, it comes from carbon emissions produced from attendees travelling to and from the event. Despite many festivals adopting green practices and supplying alternate sustainable accommodation for attendees, this invisible pollutant is damaging the environment. Larger festivals can bring upwards of 200,000 attendees travelling from all over the globe in order to get to an event. Powerful Thinking reported that 80% of CO2 emissions produced by UK festivals was down to audience travel. This doesn't take into account the emissions from crew or suppliers or even artists who are frequently brought in from overseas to perform. Research conducted by Gibson and Wong found that on average, attendees' energy consumption whilst at a festival was considerably lower than that of the national average. Unfortunately, this was offset by the travel emissions to get to and from the festival, which meant that an attendee's overall energy consumption during the festival period was higher than that of the average person nationally. A report conducted by Julie's Bicycle found that a third of festival goers thought it was the responsibility of the festival organisers to provide a more carbon neutral means of transport to and from the event. Further research extrapolated that if the responsibility of finding lower emission transport was left to the attendee, that a form of incentive should be offered in the way of food and drink vouchers or even preferential camping. Continuing the assumption that it is the responsibility of the event organiser to provide a low emission travel alternative, it is important to see what organisers are already offering. Tom Elkington, co-founder of Gotwood, spoke in an interview about Gotwood's collaboration with a company called Go Car Share. Go Car Share is an app that helps people travelling to the festival share cars with people that live near to them. This collaboration reportedly had a high success rate and ensured more of the cars entering the site were full to capacity. Collins et al. Produced a journal article that reports some event organisers have adopted a different approach and have collaborated with local governing bodies to introduce a shuttle bus or park and ride service in order to minimise carbon emissions. Although this solution has proven to reduce carbon emissions, the overall results are perhaps not as significant as alternate options. Gibson and Connell have reported that some festivals have begun calculating the amount of carbon emissions they produce. This process allows the organiser to both track their annual emissions and, in some cases, to implement carbon offsetting. This is a process in which carbon dioxide emissions can be compensated for by providing funding for organisations who implement measures which can counteract the negative carbon emissions. Eagler, on the other hand, criticises the process of carbon offsetting, suggesting that this process allows organisations to buy their way out of making more sustainable choices, such as swapping to biofuel generators in an effort to reduce their carbon emissions, which in turn does not reduce the amount of dangerous gases entering the atmosphere, which is what should be actioned in order to tackle the climate crisis. Some festivals have achieved the status of becoming carbon neutral, with Flow Festival in Helsinki being one of the first to achieve this goal. The festival boasts a wide range of environmentally sustainable practices and initiatives, from sustainable, ethically sourced meals, a commitment to 100% biodiesel across site, and a total carbon offsetting. The festival could have unlocked the key to a sustainable event future. As the climate crisis continues to grow, so does the pressure for positive, sustainable change. Angel Ofsker discusses that with this pressure for positive change follows a trend that sees consumers becoming proactive with their choices and investing in environmentally ethical brands, commodities, and even festivals, therefore giving an incentive for festival organisers to be doing more in terms of making their events sustainable. In conclusion, with the imminent threat of a climate crisis looming, the demand for sustainable innovation from both consumers and event organisers will increase. Consumers will actively seek out festivals that seem to be doing good, whereas organisers will actively be seeking ways to streamline their sustainable efficiency. Managing waste will be an easy way of making visible changes, whereas managing emissions from travel could lead to drastic improvements in the environment.